I just found this mushroom frozen in the snow, and it reminded me that I've got a couple of jars of dried mushrooms, mushrooms that I foraged throughout this last summer and autumn. So coming to the hut, we're gonna cook up mushroom soup. This one that I just found is a bit old and doesn't look too tasty. So we're just gonna use it as a ornament, a decoration in front of the hut. I've got a few different species of mushrooms. In this jar, I have porcinis. They have many other names such as penny bun, cep, king bolete, but the Latin, which everyone can agree on, is Boletus edulis. They have a very strong smell, nothing like shop-bought mushrooms. These were collected back in September. Mushroom collecting season is normally towards the end of summer and beginning of autumn. I went foraging in the woods of Austria, Slovenia, Czech Republic, Germany, and I found so many of these Boletus mushrooms that I couldn't eat them all at the time that I collected them. So I had to dry some. And here I have a jar full of dried mushrooms. And these are quite expensive. If you want to buy these from like a supermarket, you pay good money. First species, Boletus edulis. Jar number 2, we have a mushroom, the German common name is Habichspils. In English, we call it, I think, the scaly hedgehog. And the Latin is Sarcodon imbricatus. It's a type of hedgehog mushroom, so the underside of the mushroom, instead of having gills, it has spines like a hedgehog. But these I dried out when I was in Slovenia and I powdered them. Oh my goodness, the smell is just ridiculous. What I'm going to do with these is add a teaspoon or 2 into the soup, and that will just give the soup so much flavour. There is a similar species to this though, which looks very similar and is very bitter, I've heard, so hopefully we didn't collect that one. And lastly, I have got some fresh mushrooms from the supermarket. These are just your standard chestnut button style mushrooms. The genus is Agaricus, I think. They're very closely related to the field mushroom. But these I'm going to fry up with some butter and add on top as like a garnish to give it some fresh mushroominess. Quite a lot of mushrooms today. In one of my previous videos, whilst I was staying in the mountains of Slovenia, I made this mushroom soup, and many people asked for a recipe. Now, I don't know why they're asking me for a recipe. I am not a very good cook. But hey, I thought, well, it tasted good, and if I try it again now and it tastes good, then I might as well share it with some people. So what I'll do is, if this goes to plan and I slurp on the soup this evening and I think it's good, I will put the recipe in the description below. I'm going to start off by cutting up an onion and some cloves of garlic. I'm going to dice the onion really small. I don't want there to be big pieces in the soup. I want there to just be little bits that will probably dissolve into pretty much nothing once I've cooked them. I want it to be a bit garlicky, so I'm going to use 4 cloves of garlic. The best way I've found to cut garlic is to chop off both ends and then smack it, and then it should peel off. There you have a perfectly peeled garlic clove. Chop this up as small as I can. I've kind of realised that is quite a lot of garlic. We'll give it a go though. I don't mind a bit of garlic. This is the soup pot. Everything will happen in here. And this is my source of heat, a wood burner, which is currently very, very hot. But luckily I can place this around depending on how hot I want it. If I want it to heat up more, put it in the middle. If I want it to cool down, put it at the edge. I'm gonna add some butter to the pan to cook the onions and garlic in. When I made this soup before, I used some potatoes to give the soup a bit more bulk and heaviness, because otherwise it's very thin and just watery. But today I'm trying celeriac, which is an interesting vegetable. It's a root vegetable, and it's the same family as celery, so it tastes of celery, but instead of it being the stem, it's the root. Slightly different texture, slightly different taste. But it's really good, and I've added a bunch of that into the soup. But you could just use potatoes or any other root vegetable, maybe carrots. That would also be something nice to add, give it some sweetness. And right now I'm just frying it all down softening everything up before I add the stock and the mushrooms. And I'll get that prepped now. This is a stock cube. It's a cube full of a lot of flavour. Now you can make your own stock by adding loads of vegetables to a pan of water and simmering it for ages. Or you can buy ready-made stock from the shop. I didn't want to have to bring loads of vegetables here, so I brought a couple of packs of these stock cubes. You can get chicken stock cubes, beef stock cubes, vegetable stock cubes, whatever flavour you want your soup, add that type of stock cube. Looks like that. There's instructions on the back for how much water to add. These ones are 450 millilitres, I think. So I'm gonna fill that up with hot water, swirl it around, and then we have a stock ready to add. Now this is where the dried mushrooms come in. They have no moisture in them. You need to rehydrate them to give them a soft texture and also release all the flavour that is inside of these mushrooms. So I'm going to tip in a few of these mushrooms. They have a lot of flavour inside them, so I don't think I need that many. And those mushrooms will go soft and they will release all their mushroom flavours into this water. So not only have we got the stock flavours in there, we've now got mushroom flavours in there. So the onions, garlic and celeriac has softened down. I can now add all of this tasty liquid. And looking in there, I'd like a little bit more water out of here. You can always reduce the water by boiling it away. So I don't think it's a problem to add lots of water at this point. So there we have a saucepan full of lots of flavour. Time to add the super flavoursome mushroom powder. I'm going to go for 2 teaspoons full to start with. And the way I can change the flavour levels of this is by either adding water to make it more diluted and less flavoursome, or reducing the water to make it more flavoursome. The stock cubes often can be very salty, so I haven't actually added any salt in this yet. I'll do that right at the end. So I'm going to let this sit now on the heat, bubble away, and the celeriac will hopefully go really soft. All the flavours will mix in nicely and we'll have a very flavoursome soup to dunk some bread into. What I'll do with these mushrooms is just fry them in some butter until they're slightly brown and then put them on top of the soup to make it look nice and also give some proper bites of mushroom. When I made this soup back in the autumn, I used fresh chanterelles for like the garnish and they were really good. But today I'm going to settle for shop bought mushrooms. Mushroomy, not quite salty enough, so I will have to either add some more salt later or reduce it down a bit. Celeriac is really good. Gonna add a little bit of pepper. I feel like it needs some sort of zing. I've got some vinegar. This is apple cider vinegar. It's the only vinegar I've got, but I reckon a little bit of this, not too much, will give it a bit more of an exciting taste. I don't know. Definitely don't take my words of advice, but we'll give it a go. We'll see if that did anything. Oh, wow. That is actually incredible. You don't really notice it. It's not like a, oh, sour. It's just in the background and it makes everything way nicer in your mouth. I was reading a book the other day called Salt, Fat, Acid and Heat by a lady called Samin. It's a book about cooking, and in the acid chapter she mentioned how one of the chefs she looked up to at the time tasted her soup and he said, it needs a little bit of vinegar, and she thought, what, vinegar? Anyway, she added it and it was the finishing touch. That's where I got the idea to add a bit of vinegar. That's real interesting. It definitely needs a little more salt. Let's fry some mushrooms. Mushrooms are done, so I'm gonna Sprinkle a bit of salt over them. Turn that off. Ideally, what I would do now is blend that soup up into a smooth, thick liquid. However, I don't have a blender, so we're just going to eat it how it is. However, I'm going to add a couple of chunks of butter, and I think if I melt this in, it will give it a little bit more of a creaminess to it. Try and float these fresh mushrooms on top. Some fresh parsley. And to finish it off, some parmesan cheese. And that will add another layer of salt. Oh boy! Of course, served with a slice of fresh bread. Let's taste it and try and convey the flavours through descriptive words. When it goes into my mouth, I feel all the different sized and shaped particles of dried mushroom, onion, bits of garlic and celeriac all floating around my tongue. It's a deep flavour, but lifted just a little bit. There's like a bit of light in there from the vinegar. I'm so bad at this. I think it really needs the celeriac, or of course you could use potatoes, something chunky in there which you can actually bite into. However, I would quite like to try this soup blended up into a thick, creamy soup. The mushrooms on top, absolutely necessary. I can really taste the garlic. The garlic is strong, but I like it. I don't think it's a problem. Of course you can tone down the garlic if you don't like it as much. The parmesan cheese grated on top adds an extra bit of saltiness, which is much of a delight for my tongue. And much like the vinegar, the parsley also kind of brightens up the dark, earthy soup. Does that make any sense? Probably not. You see, it's not really how I imagine soup. It's a bit watery, and I'd say it needs to be a bit thicker for it to really go on the bread nicely. It works, but when I imagine the perfect soup with bread, you dunk the bread in and it covers the bread like a sauce rather than like soaking in like water. Still nice though. I like it. It's a good job that I like it because I've got a saucepan over there with another 4 servings. So this is going to be my lunch for the next week. I hope this video has at least inspired you to go away and make a soup, because it sure hasn't taught you how to make a soup. If you want to learn more about soup making, definitely go check out some cooking channels on YouTube and you can learn more. Cheers for watching. See you soon. Bye for now. Ciao. Well done, Alex. Well done. Thank you very much.